Good morning, and thank you so much for staying tuned to Citizen TV. This is the Daybreak on the 18th of January 2021, and we are here to talk about the latest in the world of news. But let's begin by taking a look at some of the stories that are following up for you today and this week. And the very first one is what you may now know, that the Nairobi city has a new deputy governor, that is Kananu Mwenda, who was sworn in last week, towards the end of last week, and now she becomes the deputy governor. There is talk, including in the papers, that say that she could be ascended to the position of governor, and we'll be talking about the legality of such a process and whether it can be successfully challenged. Of course, you may not know whether that will happen, but you can try and look at the provisions of the law, but that's what it is. She could be succeeding Mike Sonko as the governor of the Nairobi city. Also, this morning and this week, we're also following up on the story of the succession of Chief Justice David Maraga, who retired on the 12th of January 2021. The Judicial Service Commission has released a statement saying that a vacancy in the office of the Chief Justice, the publication of that will be happening today in the Gazette notice, and following the publication, the search for a candidate and the recruitment process and its attendant timelines will be governed and conducted in accordance with all the relevant provisions of the Constitution and the law. We're talking about the Judicial Service Act as well as the Constitution, because now that process formally begins after today. Those are some of the stories that we'll be following up for you today and this week. But I want us to introduce the panel of discussants that we have already in studio. I have Jonathan Mweke, former Deputy Governor of Nairobi. Karibu sana to the show. Former Speaker, Nairobi County, Beatrice Alachi. Karibu sana to the show.
Asante sana.
And Fred Okango from the Third Way Alliance. He is the Secretary General. Is it contested anymore?
It has never been contested.
Really?
Thank you so much.
So thank you so much for making time for us. We'll also be joined by Anthony Oloch, the Member of Parliament, excuse me, for Mathare, which is within, excuse me again, Nairobi City. We'll be joining the conversation. But first, let's listen to what happened last week towards the end. I believe it was on Friday when Anne Kananu became a deputy governor.
I shall always truly and diligently serve the people and the Republic of Kenya in the office of the Deputy Governor of Nairobi County, that I shall diligently discharge my duties and perform my functions in the said office, and I will do justice to all in accordance with the constitutions and the laws of Kenya without fear, favor, affection, or ill will. So help me God.
Anne Kananu Mwenda, now Deputy Governor. I want us to begin from where we left the conversation when I had... were you in the same panel with the Speaker?
Yes, we were.
Yes. So, Speaker, let me begin with you. The events of that day, of course, we saw a very quick sort of vetting of Anne Kananu. Then her name is gazetted, and you see her being sworn in the presence of Justice Mativo. Did you expect that?
Well, for me, I think the moment the County Assembly takes over, I've always said the County Assembly is a very powerful tool. So it depends on how they looked at the framework. And if they decide we are going to reduce the hours, and they go on the floor of the House and they say we are reducing our time frame in terms of voting, it happens even in Parliament. So I think that one, when it comes to, I've told Kenyans, and I'll tell them this morning, the institutions that we have, if you have good people, Kenya moves. If you have people who will misuse it, we'll have challenges. But the most important thing we have to always remember, the floor of the House of Parliament is very powerful. And therefore, anything that they do on the floor of the House then goes through. Until now, you have to go and now challenge it in court. So for now, the County Assembly passed. It went through the process. The question will not be timing. The question now is for you to go and prove in court, because somebody will say in court, we at the standing orders say this, and therefore we've used that. And so that is the most unfortunate part of the whole process. But this is what I want to say, that in all this we are doing, I hope it serves well the country. That should be our agenda. That should be what we call public interest. For Nairobi, I know we had many challenges, others wondering, do we go to an election, do we do this? But now the questions will be in court, the legal questions are now moving to court. Now, Nairobians have to, or the assembly and the whole institution of the county government of Nairobi will be so much dragged in court. Regardless of all this, I don't know how we move to the next level, or we are just going to disregard, again move. I think it's good also to reflect. So I would wish we look at how we move with the deputy governor, and then now see how we move forward. I don't know, because I want to be very honest. If this is for the interest of Nairobi, not to go into the politics and the different divides that we already have, then I think Nairobians will want a calm Nairobi for now with COVID, with the challenges we are facing.
Okay, DG Mweke, did it bother you, the sort of efficiency we saw of an assembly vetting a nominee within such a short time? It is gazetted, sworn in before 2 p.m. so quickly, like a script.
Yes, absolutely, Sam. It bothered me, and it bothered me deeply, because it was completely unconstitutional, disregard of the rule of law, and it reeked of impunity, total impunity. I mean, if whoever planned and executed that fraud that happened in Nairobi.
You call it fraud?
I call it a fraud because it's against all our laws. It's against the Constitution. It's against the County Governments Act. It's even against public interest. And that's why I call it a fraud. If they knew they were doing the right thing, why did they rush that process in 5 hours? I mean, for something as senior as Nairobi. Nairobi is Kenya. It's the capital city of the region. Yeah? Even to vet an ambassador to go here to Tanzania takes 2-3 weeks. How can you justify rushing a process in 5 hours, including swearing in? Number two, the County Governments Act, the amended one that came out in June 2020, gave very, very clear guidelines on how a deputy governor can come into office. And one of them has to be appointed by the governor. So Anne Kananu is now a deputy governor in Nairobi. I just have a few questions. Number one, who signed her appointment letter before swearing in? Number two, to be a deputy governor, you must be a deputy governor to somebody. Who is she a deputy governor to? Who is the governor? And if you say the governor is the acting speaker, he's not substantive. And where in the world have you ever seen a deputy governor or somebody's deputy being in office without being chosen by the main person? Yeah, so you can't be a deputy to somebody who was not nominated. She was nominated by Mike Sonko. Mike Sonko was impeached. He's no longer in office. So it's just wrong on so many levels, and that's why it deeply bothers me. Lastly, the Constitution says that if there's a vacancy in the office of the governor and a vacancy in the office of the deputy governor at the same time, the Speaker of the County Assembly takes over for 60 days. After that, there shall be an election. Constitution does not give you an option. It says there shall be an election. Now, that motion has already been set because the Speaker is acting. So IEBC has come in and they've already set a date for the election. So the process is already in motion. How can you short circuit it? Lastly, Sam, our Constitution is very clear again. And why I keep talking about law and Constitution, because that's what would put our country together. This is exactly that holds us together. And if you don't follow the law, then you're opening yourself up to very serious impunity. The Constitution says power belongs to the people. Yeah? And it is exercised through elected officials.
Right.
You have given power to somebody without the will of the people being taken into consideration. So I agree with Speaker Elachi that this is going to go to court. I expect many, many lawsuits to go through. I even spoke to the president of the Law Society of Kenya when this happened on Saturday and some of the council members, and I urged them, in public interest, can you file a petition in court? And Mr. Harvey assured me that the LSK is going to file a petition in court so that we ensure this kind of impunity doesn't continue.
Third Way Alliance, you've already expressed your opposition to this sort of decision that was taken. What exactly do you find wrong? Of course, there are many things that people have said, but what substantially would you say is the breaking point that this cannot be allowed to go on?
Thank you, Sam. First of all, it is important to note that this is not only a fraud, but also a coup. It is the biggest coup and the most illegal thing in the history of Kenyan politics. As a party, we aver that what happened on 15th is illegal, unconstitutional, and affront to the provisions that obligate the people of Kenya to protect, defend the Constitution of Kenya in Article 3. Number two, the law does not work in retrospective. The people who are maneuvering this are contemplating the past. Why? Because, as Honorable Mike has put it, by the time Speaker Mutura was sworn in, the Constitution contemplated the occurrences in Article 182(4). And to that extent, the Speaker was acting for 60 days with IBC preparing for an election. So to that extent, the people of Nairobi are expecting an election for the governor, to that extent. And therefore, when you maneuver...
Which article did you say?
You maneuver, I'm saying, what the Constitution contemplates in the absence of a governor. We know very well that Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko was impeached. And when he was impeached, it is public secret that at that time he didn't have a governor, a deputy governor. And therefore, the provisions of Article 182, sub-Article 4, that contemplate that in the absence of the governor and the deputy, then the Speaker shall act in 60 days as we wait for election of a substantive governor. That is the law. Now, look at it this way. The questions that Mweke has asked, and those questions, I'm sure, you will find them in many petitions in court that are challenging this political maneuvering. Now, as a party, we believe in the rule of law. We believe that the Constitution must be respected. We believe that every Kenyan has got that opportunity and is obligated to do that. However, we have also seen a scenario where political parties nominated candidates. We have seen political parties, including Jubilee and ODM, who are fronting their candidates to go for primaries. So what changed? The people of Nairobi would prefer a governor who is elected. You've just said from the media that it is expected that probably anytime this week, the now DG shall ascend to the governor position. So the question we're asking as a party again, what is the legal route that they shall be using to have a DG who is not elected or who has not come into office through an election ascend to the position of governor? And whose DG is she? Because you must be deputizing somebody. You don't have a governor who you are deputizing. Lastly, we know very well that we all want the best for the people of Nairobi. We know the challenges that are in this city. And today, no one can argue that there is an emergency, that the people of Nairobi are lacking certain services, that we must have somebody in place immediately to cure that challenge. We cannot argue that because we have seen what the transfer of powers and functions did. And that transfer can even be argued that, to an extent, there's something happening, and therefore there's no vacuum. But we must also be aware of the fact that this is all politics, and we would want to test the limit of the law so that the law can now tell us how do we address some of these challenges. Remember, the court is available for all of us. And I believe that the court shall pronounce itself on this matter. The other matters, the petitions that, you know, were filed that were challenging the vetting, which was done in a record time of 5 hours, and no Nairobian had even an opportunity to submit any issues he or she had with that vetting, because that's a requirement, have been consolidated, all those petitions, for 21st. Our matter was consolidated for, I mean, was to get direction on 19th, but now all of them, the 5 petitions have been consolidated for 21st. And some, I can tell you, listen to the people of Nairobi. They are unhappy. They are unhappy because what has happened has denied them their rights in Article 38. What has happened has denied them their right in Article 1. What has happened has denied their right in Article 3. So it means there are people in this country who have defiled the provisions of the Constitution.
Who are these people that you talk of?
We don't know them, but we know that the matter happened in a record time.
And that's what I'm asking, because Speaker Elijah here said that it is within the powers excuse me, of our county assembly to decide how they can handle a motion, because we saw it was gazetted. Actually, the gazettement was by Speaker Benson Mutura. I'm just wondering if it's possible for a speaker who is acting as a governor to at the same time be the one issuing notice of a special sitting.
Now, Sam, let me tell you, the speaker is a caretaker governor. The provisions of County Government Act does not provide for the speaker. In fact, it's not clear whether the speaker can do certain things, even appointments, it's not clear. It provides for the DG what DG cannot do. We didn't have a DG. In this gazettement, that's a question that court will interpret. That's a question of interpretation. However, when you talk about the time, the span in which this maneuvering was done, again, as Madam Speaker here has said it, it is up to the county assembly. But I want to ask you, as Honorable Mweka said, this is a matter of high magnitude. It is about the people of Nairobi. Nairobi is not just like any other county. It would have been fair, even if they wanted to go that route, to allow the people of Nairobi to submit, to conduct a participation. That, do you agree? Do you have anything against this candidate? That did not happen. And that's why I'm saying that this is a defilement of the Constitution and all the relevant statutes.
All right, I'll get back, I'll get back to you, Speaker. But DG Mweke, is there any specific thing that you find illegal on the side of the County Assembly, maybe having broken the law or the Constitution, in how they handle this vetting?
I think where the County Assembly could have missed the mark is by allowing the vetting to happen in the first place. These are lawmakers. They know the law. They have a legal team. They even have external lawyers. I mean, I'm not sure what part of the law is not clear, because there's 2 laws. The Supreme Law, the Constitution, that gives a very clear path on how somebody can become a deputy governor. And there's the County Governments Act that gives a very, very clear instructions on how somebody can become a deputy governor or a governor. It's common sense, lack of a better word. So for the County Assembly even to agree to do the vetting, to me, whoever put out that vetting notice in the newspaper saying we're going to vet a candidate that they themselves knew very well is not eligible for vetting, that's abuse of power. And we have to get to a point in this nation where if you abuse power that has been given to you by the public, you have to be personally liable, to a point where even the public money that was used to put that advertisement in the newspaper, the one who put it in the newspaper should be surcharged, because they knew they were doing the wrong thing. So forget even about the vetting process. It should not have even... No, but you can't execute the law if you know it's illegal. Your role if you know it's illegal. Yeah, everybody knows some. Even the people who did this coup and this fraud, they know it is wrong. So why are public officers doing things that are wrong when they know they're wrong? And that's the moral part of it. And also, just before you go on, now as a person and as a leader, we should also have some morals. If I was in the situation as Anne Kananu, and I said it here before. I don't have anything against Ann Kananu. Actually, she is even my friend. But I have a problem with the process. And if I was in her situation, I would not have even agreed to be vetted or to be sworn in because I, as a leader, know it's wrong.
Okay. I'm asking that question because I wish one Honorable Oluwach was here, because there's a question of the judge who presided over this swearing in. And the question I would ask, and I will ask Anthony when he joins the conversation, is can the judge really question the event that is just about to preside, or once he's told that he needs to conduct the swearing in, he just has to do so? But Speaker Elachi, assuming that Governor Mike Sonko had some CEC nominees before he was impeached and then now he is impeached, would the Assembly go ahead to vet those nominees?
No.
What would happen?
Well, he has seized. The Constitution and the County Government Act is very clear that when the governor seizes, you know, if we have, for example, a new governor who comes in today, definitely all the CCs of Sonko are leaving office. In fact, they have left office. You know, where I am saying, I am pleading that let us not set some precedents that one day we will come to regret.
Correct. Absolutely.
You know,
Correct.
just to solve one problem. But you have, and I think we have done that in this country. That's why so many things we find ourselves into crisis. So, for me, the most important thing, and I want to be honest this morning, I'm not against any woman taking, you know, last time I was talking about the Constitution with Mweke here, and the next thing I saw in the whole social media, oh, Elachi doesn't support women. We cannot be saying we are working around the Constitution and bringing BBI to correct some of the mistakes, and then when you want to speak the truth, you are told that, well, you are not talking, you are now fighting women. We never fight women. And that is why this morning I have said we cannot blame Anne. In this situation, the County Assembly takes the vet. They've used the floor of the House. As I said, it is powerful. It becomes law until now you go to court to start now fighting it in court. And even in Parliament, that's what happens. But then the other question will be now that we have to always be very careful. Even if you want to circumvent the law and try and work out things, I always say go with the process in a manner where you still use the law, but it will, you know very well you have guided yourself not to find yourself so much in court battles. Now, in terms of, for example, what Senate needs to do for us, because it's something that Senate is also not playing, I mean not really playing, but Senate, looking at the law, they amended the County Governments Act. I wish they looked at all these issues because the county government would have resolved, the new amendments would have resolved all these challenges we are facing. Challenge number one, you cannot just leave and say, Speaker is who? You can't come now and blame the Speaker of Nairobi for what he has done because he knows very well, I swore in as an acting governor. And there's a lacuna there that does not guide to say, I cannot do this. But then it goes now with your conscience. Because if my conscience will tell me, if my deputy governor has no powers, can I be cautious? Because I don't want to find myself now being thrown into the hands of EACC, and then I have no backup to protect me. But then there's a lacuna. So you can blame or not blame. Because, but you see, the County Government Act is very clear. It tells the deputy governor, you cannot transfer, you cannot, I don't know, do what. In fact, you're very limited. That is why, if you want Anne to support now Nairobi, you have to take her to be the governor, or else there's nothing. She won't even be powerful as the Speaker was doing, because the law provides now what she needs to do.
But you see, law is subject to interpretation. When it says the deputy governor cannot make appointments, cannot sign bills into law, cannot dismiss people, it's not saying that they cannot do that while they're a deputy governor. It says when the deputy governor begins to act as a governor, there are certain things they cannot do. So pretty much what the law is saying, if you're an acting governor, you cannot do A, B, C, D. Yeah, so you don't need to really come down and start talking about, oh, it only applies to the deputy governor when he's acting, but doesn't apply to the speaker when he's acting. No, it says, as an acting governor, you cannot make appointments, you cannot dismiss people.
How then would you run a government if at all the departure of Sonko means you don't have even a cabinet?
Because the law says...
And the most challenging part, Deputy Governor, is that most of them, their contracts had ended. You see, that's another big challenge, that they didn't have contracts that preceded to their 5 years. He gave them contracts that were 1 year. So some of them contracts are over. What are you still doing in Nairobi County? You see, those are some of the questions that are very key to be asked.
So, DG, if Governor Mike Sonko's cabinet has expired, how is Speaker Mutura, acting governor, supposed to run the city? With who?
What the law says is when the governor goes away, the county assembly remains, the county executive remains in place until a new governor comes in. And that's the law. And it happened, you saw it happen in Nyamira. After Governor Nyangaramba died, the county executive committee remained until the new governor was sworn in. Yeah. Once the new governor comes in, then it remains dissolved. It's at the discretion of that new governor either to appoint or not. Or not. Yeah? Even for us, when we lost the election, our county executive committee stayed in place for 3 weeks until the new governor was sworn in. That's when it is deemed and resolved. So Speaker Mutura for 60 days still has a county executive committee. Yeah. But once a new governor is elected, then it stands dissolved. And they're all caretakers at this point. And that's why we are saying it's a fraud, it's an affront to our constitution, it's a coup. Because it goes completely against the laws of the land.
Okay, you've called it a lot of things, fraud, coup, well.
He has to go and now defend it in the court as it is fraud and coup. But for now, it is still within the law of the way the county assembly passed it. Yeah,
there's something, Speaker, you raised, and I want Fred Okango to also comment on this, because you said that you cannot blame Kananu, but the only Kenyan who took that out of office is Anne Kananu herself.
That's why I said
what responsibility does she take?
She takes responsibility, yes, because, you know, it's very difficult for we are different, Sam. Yes, we are different. And everyone has a different strength that God has given you on how you look at things. So it depends. You know, for me, Bijutelachi, me.
So you're living into conscience?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
I mean, it's somebody's conscience.
I want to refer to the people of Nairobi to Article 179, Sub-Article 7. When the vacancy arises in the office of the governor, the county executive ceases to hold office. And that is, again, reflected in the relevant statute, County Government Act. But there are administrative roles and positions that, in such an instance, will support the acting governor to deliver. In this instance of Nairobi, we have got those people, like the chief officers and the rest, and some appointive positions that can help. But again, Nairobi is even peculiar, because most of the functions were transferred to NMS. So you cannot argue that there is a reason that we must have this and we must have, you cannot do that. But Sam, I also want to remind the people of Nairobi, there's a Supreme Court advisory opinion that attempted to cure this lacuna when the Supreme Court referred the people to the provisions of 149, where the deputy governor, in the absence of the president and the deputy governor, I mean the deputy president, what happens? There's a provision of 60 days. And it is required that the governor shall appoint the DG within 14 days, and the county assembly must vet within 60 days. In this instance, again, there was no DG. And that's why we have that by the time Speaker Mutura was getting into office as acting governor, the only thing that was waiting is an election that will give the people of Nairobi a substantive governor who will come with a DG. That is the law. Now, look at it. While we say we cannot blame Anne, we are asking ourselves, Anne, as a Kenyan, has her rights, and those rights also must be protected and must be protected. Sorry, but Anne also can decide to go and run as a governor and win it. Nothing stops her. You know, so our argument is very simple, Sam. In this instance, it is a coup, and this is a bloodless coup, but unfortunately, it is a coup that is going to hurt the people of Kenya. Because if presidency is being set, then it will happen somewhere else again. We don't want to do that. And that's why we are saying, in this matter, without fighting, being confrontational, we shall stand and test its limits in court.
Okay.
So that we see to what extent can the court interpret this and provide a clear way forward. But as it is today,
okay,
it has happened. But while it is happening, we fear that should the political maneuverers proceed and have the now DG get into the office of the governor, then it will be a very bad president that will be set.
All right, Fred. Let's listen to just a moment what some leaders have been saying about this appointment of Anne Kananu to be DG.
Kuna substantive deputy governor hapa Nairobi. Hata yule rafiki yangu tulikuwa na yeye kwa bunge ambaye ni speaker. Sasa inafaa arudi tu kwa kasi yake kwa sababu kiongozi amepatikana.
I want somebody to come out very clearly, either Judge Mativo or the acting Chief Justice, Philomena Mwilu, to tell us before our sister was sworn in, who is this governor who signed her appointment letter?
Kupitia njia mkato ambao wengine wameamua kupitia njia mkato kuhakikisha kwamba wana Nairobi hawapati gavana aliyechaguliwa. Uwezi enda ukapata gavana kupitia koti. Koti imewekwa pale kuhudumia kila mtu, hata sisi, hata wao.
So the guy speaking there is in studio. One Dendwale is saying that we are calling on DCJ Mwilu, but also Judge Mativo. I'm not sure that can happen until you take the matter before them, which has to start at the High Court level. But I'm looking at the Constitution, and Article 179 is talking about the executive authority of the county is vested in and exercised by a county executive committee. And the county executive committee consists of the governor and the deputy county governor. So in a case where once a vacancy arises in the county governor's office, then the members of the county executive committee appointed under clause 2 cease to hold office, meaning where the executive power is supposed to rest is now vacant, right? And then now you have an acting governor in the name of Benson Mutura. How is he to exercise his executive authority, which is supposed to be in the office of the governor, deputy, and CSCs?
You see, also the County Governments Act, Section 42, also says when a general election is held for a county government, the outgoing county executive committee shall remain in office until a new county executive committee is constituted after the election. Now, when an election is held, the office of the governor becomes vacant. So you have two...
No, it's not vacant. I mean, there's, like your case, Governor Kidero and yourself continue to serve until Mike Sonko was sworn in. So there was no point, there was a vacancy.
Actually, you're right. You're right. So, but you have the County Governments Act that's saying one thing, and the Constitution that's saying another thing, right? Now, if you're saying the Constitution is saying that the County Executive Committee ceases to hold office, what happens when another vacancy occurs, like death? Because we have presidents. We've had 3 governors who have passed on now. Their county executive committees remained in place until the new governor was sworn in.
So what should happen? How is this executive power supposed to be exercised at the moment when Benson Mutura is acting? Speaker.
What happens now, Ben Mutura goes back to the assembly because now Anne has come in.
No, I'm talking about where we are. Benson Mutura has been acting as governor of the city.
Yes. At
the time the CECs, the offices, their holding of office expired.
Yes.
How should he be managing the city? With who?
those are now some of the challenges, but I believe when he came in, he reorganized. How he reorganized, I didn't see him reorganizing the cities. You see, that's why I'm saying, one of the challenges we face with this Nairobi is because we have refused to just follow the process of the Constitution. When functions go back to national government, CCs of those functions ceases. Mm-hmm. If you want to now follow the right path, ceases to be CCs because functions have gone. Mm-hmm. Or because you have no function. So what are you doing? Your function left. I'm looking at the normal scenario that needed to have been done from the word go. Then we came in and we tried to play, and we were advised by the AG's office that no, the CC has to be the one to monitor whether NMS is providing the services that went to the national government. Mm-hmm. Fine. We needed to have done this in the assembly to now sit and look at the role of the CC and maybe provide a framework. Mm-hmm. That would have helped the CCs to understand if my function of health is being functioned at the national government, I should be monitoring. These are the tools of how I do my monitoring. Or they needed to have come up with something, the CCs themselves, send it to the assembly and say, now that this function has moved to the national government, we need to do 1, 2, 3 to see how we continue follow-up. That is one. Mm-hmm. Now, we didn't do that. Then we come. So we have these functions that have gone. We have now, it's a vacuum because you are in a confused state. You are wondering, do I go ask now the people handling the functions, how do where is the framework? So there was need. Are you going to meet weekly? Are you going to meet monthly? Something, a framework.
And I'm raising that question because the process of picking CECs is very clear, that you have to nominate members, take them to the assembly, get them vetted, but I don't know whether an acting governor can do that. I'm told we have Dunstan Omari on the line. He's an advocate of the High Court. Good morning, Dunstan. We are dealing with the question of Nairobi. So much has happened. The appointment of Anne Kananu. Is it appointment or approval? Approval and swearing in, because I didn't see the appointment letter, of one Anne Kananu to be Deputy Governor of Nairobi. We're also dealing with the question of what an acting governor can do at a time that holders of CEC positions of the previous administration would be deemed to have stopped holding office. How is such an acting governor supposed to execute the executive power of a county without CECs?
Thank you, Sam, very well, and viewers of Citizen Daybreak. First and foremost, what we saw is an issue that has never happened legally anywhere.
Got it.
The vetting and swearing in of Anne Kananu is foreign to any provisions of the Constitution or any provisions of the County Government Act. But that as it is, we as lawyers have now come to the realization that under the regime of President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, the law is a burden. The Constitution is an inconvenience.
Wait a minute. Regime of President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, in what capacity?
One by virtue of being elected and the other one by association. Because we are seeing total impunity in terms of ignoring the law. Not even a first-year student of law could have advised Nairobi County Assembly to do what they did. I have listened to the former DG Mweke, I've listened to the speaker, and I've listened to the other panelists. All of them are on spot that what happened cannot stand within the law. But the fundamental question that we need to ask is, did IEBC register or put the notice for Anne Kananu to be sworn in? Do we have a gazette notice gazetting her for her to be appointed as a governor? Under the County Government Act, Section 32D, it is very clear that she must be appointed by a governor, and a governor cannot be Muturia. A governor must be a substantive governor with a seal to do that. So that was an illegality. But as I've said, for political reasons, and this is what we are arguing, today quite a number of my colleagues are going to court to challenge what is being done. But the fact is that how did Justice Mativo appear to swear in a person even before the Gazette notice comes out? How can a judge be waiting for vetting as if the judge knows the outcome of the vetting?
But Dunstan,
Yes.
Justice Mativo is not here, and we do not know whether he was aware in advance of what you are purporting. But the question I would want to hear from you, can a judge apply their mind, if that is good English, in exercising or carrying out such an event, or when they are called to preside over a situation of swearing in because it has been gazetted, they just have to? Do they have that liberty?
The judge has no liberty if procedures have been followed. You remember when it happened in Kiambu, the judge who went to swear in, Justice Onyego, when he went to swear in the new coming in governor, he refused to swear in because procedures were not followed. They had to comply, and the swearing in was scheduled to the next day. What was wrong for the judge to look and ensure the law was complied? It becomes a legal quagmire when a judge has already sworn in a person. Number two, we are looking at a very fundamental question. Are we seeing the judiciary under the new acting CJ totally lose the independence that we tended to see during the retired Chief Justice's time? Because the speed at which the judge was brought, the speed at which the judge was fighting to beat the deadline of 2 is quite telling. But Sam, let me look at this thing from a political, legal perspective. This country, politics has taken the order of the day. We are seeing a situation where convenience is the hallmark of everything. Speaker Elijah has put it very clearly that we are dealing with situations, bending the law for situations for convenience. While the law is supposed to apply universally and remain permanent for so long, we are having scenarios that are causing precedent. Last week, Sam, when we had a discussion with you, I did tell it that by the time the lawyers will be going to court, Anne will have been sworn in. And I'm suspecting as we are here, the process of her being sworn in as a substantive governor might have been put in place so that by the time the lawyers are going to court to chase the question of her being appointed as a deputy governor, already she'll be a governor.
But Omari, we haven't seen a gazette notice of her sanction.
Under this regime, you don't need to have a gazette notice. Because what we are seeing is the question of running away from a by-election. And I'll not feel so bad for what has happened, because the reality is the wing that the president heads is not ready to come to a contest with the other side. That aside, we are asking, who will stand to protect the law? Because the law seems now to have been ignored. We are making decisions not based on the position of the law. If you look at the advice of for example, the question of the substantive governor, can a deputy governor appoint a CC? The law is very clear. Upon the vacance of a governor falling in place, they cease. And I want to correct DG Mweke very well that when they cease, that is why the civil service called the chief officers carry everything. The bureaucracy continues until the new governor comes. What will happen is the CEC that was there will only come for a ceremony called handing over. The they have no substantive role to do. The current acting governor cannot chair a cabinet because the cabinet does not exist. The cabinet left the day the Gazette notice of the impeachment was put in place. So that is the position of the law, Sam.
The executive authority is vested in the county executive committee, which comprises of the governor and the CECs. So that's what I'm asking. If indeed the acting governor cannot have CECs, how is he to run the county? How is he to exercise executive authority? Or is it not desired for him to exercise the authority? Well,
yeah, I mean, I can attempt to answer that.
Take a short break.
Okay.